So without further delay, I want to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Paul Silcox.
Good evening. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. It just came about, I think, how long ago was that, Dan, when we met?
Maybe 3 months?
About 3 months ago. It was at a fundraiser in Port Clinton, Ohio. And when I got there, probably about an hour after it got started, and you had been there the whole time. And it was a fundraiser for heroin in Port Clinton, prominent town. And before I got there at 7, I was about an hour late. Was there anything that was talked or mentioned about heroin?
No.
Okay, and that's my point, is that for the next hour and a half after I got there, this is a fundraiser about heroin, and there was prominent people in the community, prominent people in the county, raised a hell of a lot of money, but not one word was said to educate the people that were sitting there that night about the problem of heroin. You're not going to leave here tonight without knowing something a little bit more about the topic of heroin than what you already know. And I say that realizing that you are physicians, the majority of you, and have the capability of prescribing, and that's an important thing. And that's the reason, my part, that I'll bring up. So we're past that. Now, it's difficult to open up a newspaper or to watch the news in the evening and not hear something about another overdose. Montgomery County, they're talking about how that they're on pace this year to have 800 overdoses in Montgomery County. It's crazy. But the point is, everybody knows now, for the most part, we've got a problem in Ohio. A year ago, I did not know that we had a problem in Ohio. And we're talking about unintentional drug overdose deaths. The last 5 years, 2012, there was 1,914 overdose deaths of opiates and heroin in Ohio. 2013, 2,110, all the way up to 2016, it has jumped up to 4,149. That number didn't come out until about in April sometime. Now, the county I'm from, which is over in Sandusky County, over just a little bit south of Port Clinton and Cedar Point, and that region over there, 2012, we only had 4 that died from accidental overdose in Sandusky County. And you notice in 2016, that had jumped all the way up to 25. So it had increased 600% in that period of time. Now, fentanyl is everyone aware of what fentanyl is? Okay. It can be used as a legitimate drug. That's just a little bit much, isn't it? Is that all right? Okay. I wish I had hearing aids so I could turn it down, but anyway. So fentanyl can be used as a legitimate drug, but drug dealers, well, let's say, give you an idea. When they purchase a kilogram of heroin, and they may spend about $25,000 on that, but when they take and spread it out, they can sell it for about 150 grand. But like any businessman, and you know, it's been told that Dan and I have been business people, that we want to increase our profits as much as possible. If they can cut it, so what is it that a heroin addict wants? They want a buzz, they want a kick, they want a high. And so what drug dealers can do is they can take and they can purchase fentanyl a heck of a lot cheaper than heroin. They might invest maybe $30,000 and they can have a couple of kilograms of the substance that they're selling, their widget, so to speak. And when they take and split it all down, they can end up selling it then. They've got $30,000 invested, but they might have $300,000, you know, with about $270,000 profit at that point in time. The point is that when fentanyl is mixed in with heroin, it's much more potent, much more powerful And as a result of that, we see the deaths that are associated when people that are taking heroin think that they're just getting straight heroin, but they're not. They're getting something much more potent, and as a result of that, subdues the central nervous system, the breathing centers, brain activity, boom, and they're dead. 2012, okay, there was 75 deaths in the state of Ohio attributed to fentanyl. But you look all the way down to 2015, it had jumped up to 1,155, a 38%. 38% of the deaths that occurred in 2015 were attributed to fentanyl being laced into the heroin. Okay? Now, these are some statistics nationally. 2015, there was 52,000 overdose deaths in the United States. Accidental overdose deaths associated with heroin or opioids. 2016, that number just came out within the last couple of months to 59,000. At the end of 2016, Ohio was ranked higher than California or New York as far as overdose deaths occurring in the state of Ohio. Now, the reason I have this picture in here, earlier this year I went on vacation. I was in a plane, and as I sat there, I just started thinking, and it hadn't been too long before that I heard about the number of deaths that occurred in Ohio. And I started thinking, and I started counting seats, and I started counting the crew that were on the plane, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that out of, and this was for 2015, but now for 2016, it will be the equivalent if there was 160 seats on the plane. It would be the equivalent of one plane going down every day for a year of 160 people. Now, if there was a plane crash and 160 people went down, there's going to be a lot of national attention about that. And if there was another one that occurred next month, hey, what's wrong? What's going on with these planes? What's the problem? What are they going to look for? They're going to look for the black box. But we're talking every single day, based on the statistics from 2016, there's 160 people more that are dying as a result of heroin and opiates in the United States. These are some people that you've probably heard of. As I scan across the room, there's a few of you that will remember back into the 1980s. This guy right here, John Belushi, all right? I did my stint with the fraternities and toga parties and all like that back in the 70s. But John Belushi, famous from Saturday Night Live, March of 1982, he was found dead as a result of a combination of injecting heroin and cocaine into his system. He was 33 years old. Chris Farley, back in the mid-90s, he looked up to John Belushi when he was a child growing up. He wanted to emulate John Belushi so bad, and he lived a wild and crazy lifestyle. If you've seen any of Chris Farley's activities on Saturday Night Live and some of the other movies he was in, he was nuts. All right, he wanted to emulate Belushi so bad. And one of the things that he did is he emulated John Belushi by the fact that he died at the age of 33 after injecting on a combination of heroin and cocaine after a full 3-day binge in Chicago. Now, here back in 2014, this guy right here, I think most everybody in the room would recall him, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I did not know this, but he had been an addict many years ago. He had been sober for 23 years, and then in 2012 he fell off the wagon, and then in 2014 he died at the age of 46 in New York. Now, these are some others you haven't heard of, and one of the things that I say this in Sandusky, Ohio, in November of 2016, over a 36-hour period of time, there was 3 people that died. This lovely young girl right here, she was 21. She died on November the 11th. This guy right here, I never met him, 39 years old. He had been using heroin for a couple of years, drugs for several years. I talked with his nephew. He died on November the 12th. He was from Fremont. The little girl never gonna know her daddy. That's a good-looking kid right there. Just like his old man. But I tell you, he thought he had the world whooped. You know? And it's like most heroin addicts, I had no idea that he was doing heroin. None. About a month and a half before he went to rehab, we sat down, we had a heart-to-heart talk. He was talking about needing some more money. You know, I said, fine. I knew he had lost a roommate just before that. And so I was helping him with some money. I had no idea that he was turning around, not using the money I was giving him for what he said he was going to do it with, but he was using it for heroin. I didn't know that. And then all of a sudden, he goes to rehab. He decides that he wants to get some help. He goes to rehab, comes back after 21 days. He looked fantastic, looked really good. And then it was so close he fell off the wagon. And we talked about this fentanyl a moment ago. Well, that's what we found out. It took about almost 5 months to get the tox report back as far as his, what do you call that? The autopsy. But the heroin that was in his system was laced with fentanyl. So he had been clean for a little over 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, and was working at it. But this drug changes the mind, changes the brain so much. It twisted him around, and he was hurting so bad as he was trying to get detoxed. He was hurting so bad, he took some more heroin. I know it was like if somebody had a headache and they wanted to take an aspirin to get relief of the headache. That's what he took the heroin for that night. And the next morning, he's gone. So I had all these things that I've mentioned up to this point in time so far, I had no earthly idea at all. But since that time, I've learned an awful lot. And that's why I'm here, because I got a sneaky suspicion that most of you here probably don't know a lot of these things yourselves. And that's the only reason why I want to. That's where I go to visit my son now, and I talk with him. Now, as prescribing physicians, this is the thing why I'm here, and this is the thing why Dan is here. Basically is this. This is something that was just out about 2.5 weeks ago in the New York Times. First of all, how many of you here in the room have been practicing dentistry or involved in the dental profession for more than 20 years? So probably close to half. And then between 10 years and 20 years. Okay, and then how about less than 10 years? Okay. So the folks that have been involved in the dental profession for 20 years or more, you've seen some of these different pendulum shifts as far as the idea of pain is concerned. And I know this is something that Dan's going to talk about as far as some of the changes that have occurred. But this was just recently in the New York Times. This was from the director of the Division of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, University of Minnesota. And they're beginning to change the protocols because they've been recognizing that the number of prescriptions that have been written for the age group of 10 to 19 years old is the highest in the dental profession. Now this is, and I'm not a prescribing physician, so please don't look at it like I'm trying to throw a bomb at you guys or anything like that. That's not it at all. But it's just that they've begun to make some changes because they recognize that oftentimes when those young minds of 10 to 19 years old are given pain medication that can be a little bit stiffer for them than what they might actually need, okay, then as a result of that, there's an increased possibility that they might go on to stronger things later on. And that's the whole reason that I brought this up. About 2.5 months ago, I was on a panel. There was at Terra State Community College in Sandusky County, and we had, it was sponsored by the health department. There were 70 students that were there, high school students that were there, and they were split up at tables just like this. And there was about 10 members of the community, law, sheriff, mayor, county commissioners, spread all around the room. And as the students were there for 15-minute segments, they moved from table to table. And I had an opportunity to have 17 students during those 3 different sessions there at my table. As we talked, and it was a matter of me asking them questions and them asking me questions. And as we had an opportunity to talk, there was 17 of those students, but 2 of them had had wisdom teeth extractions early on this year, and that both of those had been given prescriptions for 30 Percocets. All right, and so one of them said that his mother was a nurse, and so after taking about 2 of them, the rest of those pills were taken away. She dispensed them at the hospital. The other one, I know she did not complete the prescription because her pain was not that bad. So, but in many instances, it's very common that scripts like Percocet are being used again. And so with that, that was 11% of those youth that I was experienced with. So from what I understand, there may be some educators that are here in the room. It would be interesting, maybe afterwards, if you would ask me, I'd love to be able to ask questions if there are changes that are taking place in the way that prescription medications are used in dealing with people, especially young people, when oral surgery or things like that are being done, because they're trying to tone it down so that there's going to be less of the more potent type of medications for them. So, as I finish up here, what can we do? Now I'm kind of changing gears because those last 2 slides were just for tonight. So as I've talked in other different groups in Sandusky County where I live, the biggest thing is that for parents to get involved with your kids' lives. There is so much of a disconnect oftentimes between kids and parents, between the cell phones and technology and different things like that, that it's difficult to carry on conversations with kids. Parents don't know how to relate to kids. Kids don't know how to relate to parents. It's tough, all right? It is tough. And, but we do know that studies show that the kids of parents who discuss the topic of drugs with their kids, they have a 50% less likelihood that those kids are going to get involved with drugs. And during those discussions about drugs, it also has to do with letting them know that you do not approve of the use of them. But the hard part is trying to figure out a way to say it so that it doesn't sound like you're preaching at them. Let them know that it's because you love them, you're concerned about them, you're concerned about their future, and you're concerned about, what kind of grandchildren they're going to present to you someday. Those are kinds of things. But here's a couple of resources right here in Ohio. StartTalking.ohio.gov. This is one that Governor Kasich got started. There's a lot of great information on there about how to help to relate to your children. DrugFreeWorld.org. More useful suggestions there about how to be able to have conversations with your kids. Parents and grandparents. Know and guard what's in your medicine cabinet. This presentation was made to me that oftentimes, like at Thanksgiving or Christmas, all of a sudden everyone's gathered around the table, and 17-year-old Tommy's like, my belly's, I got to go to the bathroom. And he's in there in the bathroom, and they think, well, he's got a bellyache, maybe he's a little bit constipated or whatever, and he's in there for 10 minutes or so. But oftentimes it may be a matter of he's in there raking through and see what's in the medicine cabinet to be able to see if there's anything there that him or his friends might like. And so different things like that. If you know that you've got drugs in there that are potential hazardous to young people, get rid of them. If you're not using them, either that or make sure that you put them in a safe place so that other people are not going to have access to them. Hide them. Also, off in many places, counties, I know in Sandusky County, we've got multiple small cities in there where they have these boxes that you can drop off the unused medication, and that's something that can be done. Don't flush them down the toilet. Okay, I know a lot of times back years ago when hospice was there, if somebody passed away, they would take, many times the hospice nurses would come in, they would take the pills and flush them down the toilet. Well, during one of my kids' field trips one year, we went into a water treatment facility, and they said, hey, don't do that, because when we treat water, we're treating it for the bugs that are in there as a result of being used with body waste products and all like that. It's not a matter of treating it for the types of medications that end up going in there. And so, just for what it's worth. Now, what we can't do. As I said, a year ago, I had no idea how bad of a problem this was in Ohio. I had no idea how much of a problem this was in our country. And I had no idea that it was a possibility within my family. As a chiropractor, I practiced for 40 years, and on the basis of being able to treat people and help them as far as their pain is concerned without the use of medication. Now, I realize that medication is necessary at times. However, trying to do things with the least amount of medication as possible. However, these drugs are not going away. These people are making too much money. And there's a lot of different thought processes about how many different entanglements that are out there on where it goes. It'll be interesting to see if during the course of our lifetimes we really make much progress or headway with that. We can't ignore the changes in their behavior, their appearance, their friends, or their mannerisms when I'm speaking about the children. And why is that? Right there. 160 people every day are going down as a result of this, and the projections are it's going to be more in the near future. All right? Now, Dan Stuckey's coming up here and going to continue on with this presentation. I just met him recently, and him and I have been communicating for a couple of months, and I know he's got a story to go along with that'll be interest to you, and some very interesting perspectives about his story turns out a little better, a lot better than mine did, and so I very gladly welcome to the podium Dan Stuckey.